So let's. I want to round this off by just looking at the same ideas on an animal, because it's really just it's the same tool set, man. Everything stays the same, but it's just adapted for a different purpose. So I lost my morph target, so I'm just trying to find that. Okay. Okay, so let's say that this guy is like a generic predator, right? A dog, cat thing. So one idea that we've been talking about is just like, if you're asking yourself why every time you're working with these forms, then you're going to build up a visual library much more powerfully and much more quickly than you would if you're just copying the forms. So as this guy turns into a quadruped, then his rib cage is going to narrow, because the rib cage of a quadruped is narrowed side to side rather than front to back. Why? To make it aerodynamic, so it can move forwards more easily. Right? There's a greater distance between the pelvis and rib cage. Why? So that it's more limber, right? You think of like the shapes that a cat needs to make. It's got to have a good distance between there. If you were to look at a horse, you'd see that's running for long distances, so it needs to bring in lots of air. So then you would just notice that like how many more ribs a horse has, because it has needs a much bigger rib cage, and like the cartilage, so the function of cartilage here is to be stretchy. When I'm breathing on a horse, it just has like twice as much cartilage, because that rib cage is barreling out and pushing back in. It's an unimportant detail, but every form follows function, right? Everything is there for a reason. So anyway, we'll deal with a predator type dog or cat sort of thing. So we stretch that out, thin all of that out, and then like as we look at the changes through here, it's all related to the muscles and bones are predominantly the same. They're just adapted to different functions. So the hips tend to be high, by the way, and then you kind of drop down through the rib cage there. Rib cage normally much wider, side to side, so something like that. So you get that dropping down movement. You're certainly not going to get that S-curve movement, because that S-curve movement is there to support vertical weight, right? On a quadruped, the bones and the muscles are going to hang off of the rib cage and hips rather than rather than having the supporting structure of the spine. So you'll see something like this. So here the hips are suddenly like just a plane on the top. But this portion through here, that bony landmark, it's the same, right? That's the bony point of the hips that we would look for on the human body. And like the, like where do the abs go? Well, the same place on a human. They go to the symphysis pubis, right? They go into, on a human, that's where the pubic hair would be. On an animal, I don't know if animals have pubic hair. I'll look into it. But on an animal, it's going to the same place, right? It's going to the same bit of bone. So that helps you, like, if you can locate that symphysis pubis, then that's going to the same place. So it's just, you're just stringing muscles between points. Now, the ideas that we were looking at on the back basically go in like, you really want to understand the back, then peel off all of those unimportant muscles and just look at what's important. I want to mention a couple of areas on that on a quadruped. So this is specifics, but it might be relevant if you find yourself working on a quadruped. So one area is here where it's very confusing, because if you look at the top layer, what you have is you'd have the sartorius running down here, and then you'd have like your vastus lateralis, one of the quadriceps muscles there, and then you'd have tensor fasciae latae through there, you'd have gluteus medius through there, and not all of these forms impact not all of these muscles impact the form the same. So this is a key area where you just need to remove that tensor fasciae latae, and you'll end up with a shape like that. And as soon as you see a quadruped running, you'll see that triangle. But when you look at it in an anatomy book, you won't see that, because you've got to peel off the unimportant stuff, and very difficult to find any guide to tell you that. It's just, I guess you just figure it out based off of doing it. Another example would be at the neck. Well, the similar thing, like you want to take away the latissimus, you want to take away the trapezius, and then the neck, which is going to be much higher up through here. That'd be something like that. will have all of these thin muscles. You'll see you'll see the trapezius, you'll see some other stuff. Peel them all away, and you'll find a semispinalis, right? And that's going to be like a teardrop shape through there. Like I say, it's a specific detail. I'm happy for you to forget it, but just if you find yourself working with quadruped form, take a look at there, take a look there, peel off those muscles, and it's just going to make it much more easy to figure out, make it much more easy to digest. Then through here, it's all the same. The lats are roughly in the same place. Serratus muscle still exists, still in more or less the same place. Something like that. Scapula is going to be at the side, and like if I was to draw the scapula out, you'd see on a quadruped that the spine of the scapula is suddenly like, on a human you have that, right? You have that little triangle at the top. On a quadruped, that's evened out to 50-50 on either side of that spine of the scapula. So you just find the scapula, find the spine, and if it's a muscular animal, then the spine is going to be a depression because bony landmark is a depression. If it's a lean animal, then the muscle is going to stick out. Through here would be triceps. Exactly same as on a human, but bigger. Why? Because the triceps do that motion, right? Well, if you're running, that motion propels your whole body forwards, essentially. So triceps end up being much bigger. And also, again, an aside, but like thinking about the whys of everything, like if I had an arm skeleton here, we'd look at like this point here, the top of the ulna, the olecranon. That's a little distance away from the joint. But if you look at that on a quadruped, it's right the way out here, right? Why? Well, because if you pull on that, you're further away from the hinge. The further you are away from the hinge, the more active the force is. That's why, like, when you open up a door, you're not opening it by the hinges, right? That's a nightmare if you're trying to open it from there. Handle works much better. So same sort of thing. Like, this, like everything, is not a thing that you need to remember, but you just train this way of thinking. Like, everything has a reason, and that's what puts you in control. That's what that's what makes you, I guess, able to lasso these ideas and these forms a little bit more. So through here, I don't think that we spoke about this already. I think this was with the previous group. Did we mention this idea already? This that the bigger the head is on a quadruped, the more the vertebrae are going to stick out there. So why is that going to be? Yeah, the basically, like, what you'd have on a human is called the Nuchal Ligament, right? It's the ligament that goes from the C7 vertebrae there to the back of the head there, and it just has natural tension in it, meaning that your head doesn't need a huge amount of muscular mass to stay upright. If you're like a horse or a giraffe or something like that, you're going to need a big ligament, and you're going to need big muscles to keep that head upright. So the further the vertebrae is away, the more size you're going to have, and the more force that ligament's going to have. So it's a simple rule. Like, the bigger the neck is, or the bigger the head is, the further that stuff comes out from the body. You'll see it on like a cow or something like that. Sticks out like that, you know. So again, form follows function. Like, so we can find this all the way down here, and as we get to here, exact same as on a human, right? So here we'd be digging out the shape of the rib cage, and then through here, this would be the lumbar mass. Fairly significant still on most predators, because it's not that it's it's not holding the body upright, but it is snaking the body from side to side. So fairly significant, but like nothing compared to our lumbar mass, because we stand upright. No one's got lumbars like a human. You know, that's like one claim to fame, that and opposable thumbs and probably some other stuff. And then, like, through here, this is where your bum muscles, right? This is where your gluteus maximus would be. And animals have it, but like super small. Like, I think in most animals it's called the gluteus superficialis, because it's not even, meaning the superficial, the highest up gluteus muscle, because maximus implies like a great degree of size. Why as humans do we have a big gluteus maximus?
Because we walk.
Right, but what is the action that the gluteus maximus does specifically in walking? Yeah, it pulls the leg back, right? But you think like that, is not necessarily like a super powerful movement. You know, like, well, it would be in a horse, but they're using their hamstrings for that. But for most of us, we're not doing bang, that to a great extent. Like, you're absolutely right, the gluteus maximus is doing that. And so at this stage of a walk, you're going to see tension there for sure. But in order to understand the size of that muscle, you look at the inverted function. What happens if that doesn't move, right? If the femur is unable to get pulled back, then the opposite thing will happen. Gluteus maximus attached to the hips pulls the hips upright, right? So that is the muscle that pulls us upright to you know, look at the world square. And so you look at that on a chimp that's standing up. It's a flat plane. You know, we're the only ones who have that kind of pronounced curve. Yeah, apparently, I don't know if this is true. Like Aristotle said that the gluteus maximus was the defining muscle of man, and you could look at it that way because it's did that, you know. So in terms of like working with it, well, yeah, exactly like you say. That's when we're going to see the tension. But did that. Yeah, on a quadruped, it's going to be much smaller. Like if you're looking at a quadruped's backside, you're looking at the hamstrings. And then if we were to make this quadruped move, well, we've got we've got 0 minutes left. But let's just take this idea like super quickly, right? And just go, okay, this leg, right? The femur is going to be articulating from about there, right? So let's say it's there. So this leg gets thrown forwards. So something like that happens. The hips are going to be a bony point sticking out the back there. And then let's say that the scapula gets pulled backwards through there. Well, then we go, hang on. Okay, so this getting pulled forwards. This getting pulled backwards. The muscle that's going to pull that forwards would be the quadriceps muscle. So that's going to bulge, that's going to tense, and potentially start to separate from the hamstrings through there. The hamstrings are going to go straighter and tighter and potentially more defined. And as this comes forward, like maybe, well, I didn't sculpt it in, but you know, like how animals have that little attaching bit of skin through there. Maybe as that gets pulled forward, that starts to buckle and bend, and you know, you get stuff like that. Maybe wrinkle starts forming through here, whatever it is. As this gets pulled back, what muscle is going to be pulling that back? Well, the trapezius would, because it's grabbing hold of the scapula through there. The serratus would, because it's through there. So we just go, okay, maybe a little bit of tension through here, maybe a little bit of tension through there. And then, you know, who knows, maybe wrinkles start to form through there, and you use that to convey a bit of the compression as that gets pulled back, right? So, yeah, here, like the exact same ideas, but like, I mean, good luck finding a book that covers that in any degree of depth, right? There are some very good books on animal anatomy, but it's all like, okay, if you have to construct an animal, make this shape and this shape. And yeah, great, but we have to make the thing move. And there, like, you have what? You can find very, very good reference, photo reference, film reference, but outside of that, you're kind of on your own. So this is where those same concepts will carry through. And I guess that's time for us. So thank you so much for your patience, guys. I hope that was some use.